true story from Colorado. My daughter-in-law said I should stay out of their finances, The clink of glassware and polite laughter bounce around the restaurant walls, but I can't shake the chill crawling up my arms. It's my 70th birthday. A milestone, they say. A celebration of life, wisdom, love. But the smiles around the table tonight feel borrowed, like someone passed around a script and forgot to include sincerity in the lines. My name is Evelyn. I live in Colorado Springs, a place where the air is crisp and the sunsets bleed across the mountains in gold and fire. I've lived here most of my life, raised my boy here, buried my husband here. I've watched seasons change from the same porch swing for decades until 2 years ago, when I moved into my son's home after my knee replacement. It wasn't supposed to be permanent, just until I healed. But healing takes longer at my age physically, yes, but emotionally too. Tonight I sit beside my grandson, 8 years old and eager to tell me about the dinosaur toy he got last weekend. I lean in to listen, smiling, grateful. Across from me, my son Mark pours wine for his wife, Diane. She doesn't look up. She hasn't spoken directly to me since we arrived. And then it comes. So quick, so casual, I almost miss it. Diane glances at the dessert menu and says to the table, "We should probably skip the cake this year, right? It's not like sugar's good at that age." Her voice is light, joking, but her eyes flick toward me like knives. Mark chuckles awkwardly. "Mom loves chocolate," he says too fast. His defense lands like a paper umbrella in a thunderstorm. I stay quiet. I've learned that silence can be stronger than protest. My fork cuts into my grilled salmon like it's nothing, like the words didn't sting. But they do. That night, back in the guest room, though it was once Mark's childhood room, I sit on the bed and press my hand to my chest. Not because of pain, not exactly, but because something feels out of place. Like the air has shifted and I'm no longer with them. I'm around them, floating at the edges. They gave me this room with pale blue wallpaper and one framed photo of aspen trees in October. No family pictures. No sign I belong here. My suitcase still sits half unpacked beneath the bed, as if part of me always expected this wouldn't last. And still I tell myself, you're being sensitive. You're tired. Maybe Diane didn't mean anything by it. But the next morning confirms otherwise. We're in the kitchen. The boy's eating cereal. Diane's reading something on her phone, tapping nails against the counter. "Did you see the credit card statement?" she asks Mark. He sighs. "Yeah, we'll figure it out." I hover by the sink, rinsing my teacup, trying not to listen. But their words drop like coins into a glass jar, loud, echoing. I hear numbers, late fees, a missed mortgage adjustment. I dry my hands, turn, and gently say, "If you'd like, I can help go over the budget this week. I used to manage all of our finances for years." I still remember how Diane looks up and her tone slices clean through the room. "No offense, Evelyn, but maybe it's best if you stay out of our finances." Just like that, she smiles, as if to soften it, as if a smile can erase the slap of those words. Mark doesn't say a word. My cheeks burn. I nod once. "Of course," I say. And I walk out of the room before they can see my face. Back in my room, I sit at the edge of the bed and look down at my hands. Wrinkled, veined, strong. These hands wrote checks for their wedding deposit. These hands paid off Mark's college loans when his business took a dive. These hands once wiped tears, washed laundry-cooked meals, and held them both through heartbreak. And now apparently they've touched too much. It's a strange thing to be told you're too involved in the life you helped build. I spend the afternoon walking through the neighborhood. It's late October. The trees are half bare. Leaves collect along the sidewalk like secrets nobody wants to clean up. I pass the bakery where I once picked up Mark's 10th birthday cake. Chocolate with raspberry filling. He cried when it fell sideways in the car. I fixed it with toothpicks and frosting and a whispered promise that he'd always have sweet things, even if they came messy. That night, I write something down, just a line. "Stay out of our finances." I underline it, not in anger, not in vengeance, but in quiet acknowledgement that something important just shifted. A new season has arrived. And maybe, just maybe, I've let them forget who I am. But I haven't. Not anymore. The next morning is quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't come from peace, but from people stepping around each other like breakable things. The kitchen smells like toast and strong coffee, but nobody says good morning. Diane scrolls on her phone and Mark ties his tie already halfway out the door. My grandson hums to himself at the table, spooning cereal into his mouth like nothing's changed. But I feel it. The shift. The deliberate space being made. I pour my tea and take it back to my room without a word. The mug is warm in my hands, but my thoughts are cold. I keep replaying her voice. Stay out of our finances. It wasn't just a request. It was a boundary, a dismissal, and a warning all rolled into one. And yet, why did she say it like that? I didn't offer judgment. I didn't pry. I offered help. The kind of help that used to be welcomed. The kind that once meant something. But now I'm inconvenient. A shadow in their home. Useful when they need a babysitter. Invisible when I offer something real. Later that afternoon, my grandson Liam pushes open my door without knocking. He's holding a drawing scribbled crayons on thick paper, a dinosaur and a volcano. His eyes are bright, full of trust. "Look what I made, Nana." I smile and pat the bed beside me. He jumps up, wiggling beside me as I admire his work. It's the first time all day someone has made me feel like I'm still important. He points at the volcano and says, "That one's you. You're brave. You make everything shake when you're mad." I blink. "Do I?" He nods proudly. "But only when they're mean." The words settle like snow in my chest. He doesn't know it, but he's just named the truth I've been too polite to say out loud. That night, I overhear Mark and Diane in their bedroom. Their voices are low, but thin walls don't lie. She's frustrated. He's defensive. I catch fragments, credit card minimums missed, tuition payments, the trip to Cancun they can't really afford. And then she'll just meddle again. She always does. Mark says nothing, and that silence says everything. The next morning, I don't go down for breakfast. I don't offer help with lunches. I sit on the edge of my bed, one hand resting on my lap, the other tracing the stitching on the quilt. A gift from my sister years ago, hand-sewn full of blues and burgundies. Unlike me, it's never been overlooked. I pull out a small notebook from the nightstand, the same one I used to track grocery lists and birthdays. Now I open to a fresh page and begin writing something else. What I paid for. $8,200. Mark's first year of college when the loan fell through. $5,000. Their wedding photographer and catering. $11,000. Down payment to save the house when the business went under. $1,200. Emergency fund when Liam was born early. $3,650. Dental work for Diane when she lost her insurance. I stop there. Not because the list is done, but because my throat tightens. Because putting it in ink makes it real. I never asked for repayment. Never brought it up. I was raised to give quietly. To believe that family meant helping without keeping score. But they're keeping score now. I just wasn't told I'd been disqualified from the game. Late that afternoon, I go to the attic to find my winter boots. Colorado isn't shy about early snow, and I've learned to be ready. Mark hasn't gotten around to putting insulation in the attic, so it's cold, dusty, quiet. I open a box marked E-Finances 2004-2012. Inside, there's a thick manila folder. Receipts, wire transfer printouts, notes scribbled in my husband's handwriting from when he was alive. One document catches my eye. It's a copy of a cashier's check made out to Mark Weston dated March 12, 2012. $11,000 for the down payment. The house they're living in now. The house I sleep in silently in a guest room with pale blue wallpaper. I sit down on an old trunk and hold the paper in my lap. My hands shake, not from cold, but from clarity. I was never a burden. I was a bridge, a scaffold, a net. And somewhere along the way, they decided I was no longer necessary. But maybe I am, just not in the way they expect. I take the folder and a few key documents, slipping them into a smaller bag. Something is blooming in my chest. Not anger, not quite. More like resolve. I head back downstairs as the light begins to dim. Diane is on the phone laughing at something, pacing the living room in leggings and a sweater that probably cost more than my entire birthday dinner. She doesn't see me. She doesn't have to. I'm already moving differently now. In my room, I slide the folder into my tote bag. I pull out the notebook again and write one more line under the list. They've forgotten who I am. but I haven't. And maybe it's time I remind them. I wake early the next morning, not from a bad dream or aching joints, but from something else. A calm certainty. The kind that comes only after you've been bruised by someone you love and finally decide not to flinch anymore. It's a Thursday, quiet overcast with that crisp Colorado bite in the air. Mark's already gone. Diane is probably on her third espresso and fifth Instagram scroll. Liam is at school. The house is still. I dress in slacks and a wool sweater, something my late husband used to say made me look boardroom ready. I take my time, smooth my hair, apply a little lipstick. Something about the ritual steadies me, dignity in the details. Then I pick up the folder, zip it into my leather tote, and step outside. The drive into town is beautiful. The trees have thinned out now, gold and rust clinging to the last branches like old memories. As I pass familiar landmarks, the diner where Mark spilled his first milkshake, the park where Diane used to laugh with her mother before time turned her brittle, I wonder when everything began to rot. I don't let the thought linger. I have a destination. Main Street Bank. Not a chain, not fancy, just a small building with stonework and brass handles and a teller who still remembers my name. Evelyn Weston, I say softly to the receptionist. I'd like to speak with someone about an account. I believe I'm still listed on it. She checks her screen. Of course, Mrs. Weston. Let me see if Mr. Talbot is available. 5 minutes later, I'm in a warm office lined with books and the smell of old carpet. Mr. Talbot, a kind man with thinning hair and thick glasses, greets me like an old neighbor. Because once we were. I explain calmly that I believe I'm still co-owner on a joint account opened over a decade ago. Mark had insisted it would just be temporary back when the business loans weren't getting approved fast enough. I had good credit. He didn't. I signed the forms, then forgot about them. Mr. Talbot confirms with a few clicks and nods. Yes, Mrs. Weston, you are indeed a co-owner. In fact, the account hasn't been updated since it was opened. No changes to ownership permissions or signatories. I nod. My fingers press into the leather armrest. Can I withdraw from it, I ask. You have full rights, he says gently. Would you like to make a withdrawal today? I take a slow breath. Yes, I would. The number I choose isn't random. It's precise. It's not revenge. It's a reckoning. 28,150. I know the exact figure. Because I've written it down, cross-checked it, verified the math with my old calculator like it was gospel. It's the sum of what I gave them. The wedding, the college loan, the house deposit, the emergency fund, and all the other little things they don't remember or pretend not to. Mr. Talbot processes it with grace. He doesn't ask why. He doesn't need to. Would you like a cashier's check or direct deposit? He asks. Cashier's check, I say. And one more thing. I slide a second folder across the desk. Inside are the documents for a new trust. Something I started drafting last year when Mark began coming home later, and Diane's eyes turned colder. I want this to go into the Weston Family Trust, I explain, but I'm updating the beneficiary. He reads over the new form, raises an eyebrow slightly. To Liam, he asks. Yes, I whisper, but not until he's 25. I want him to grow without strings, without conditions. He nods. It's a thoughtful choice. He doesn't say it, but I feel it. It's also a firm one. By the time I leave the bank, the clouds have begun to part. The light is golden in that early winter way, everything crisp and real. I sit in my car and hold the envelope in my lap, not with pride, not with regret, with clarity. They told me to stay out of their finances, so I did. I took back what was mine. The house is quiet when I return. Diane isn't home. There's a grocery list on the fridge with wine underlined twice. I place the envelope inside a drawer in my room. Then I write a small note not to Mark or Diane, but to myself. You are not petty. You are precise. You are not cruel. You are clear. Later that evening, I hear Diane on the phone in the kitchen. I swear it was there 2 days ago. I don't know where it went. Maybe the bank messed up. He needs to call them what no. Of course, your mother wouldn't. Well, I don't think she would. Her voice trails off. I don't offer an answer. I stir my tea. Because this time, I've stayed out of their finances. Exactly the way they asked me to. The next morning, Mark knocks on my door. Not a soft knock. Not the kind you give your mother when you're checking in. It's brisk, impatient. the kind of knock that already has an answer attached. "Mom," he says, voice tight, "can we talk?" I nod and step aside. He walks in, eyes scanning the room like it's foreign territory, like it never belonged to him, like I didn't rock him to sleep in here once, when the monsters in his closet were real and not just resentment in disguise. He doesn't sit. "Something weird's going on with the joint account," he says. "I just got off the phone with the bank. There's a huge withdrawal. Did you—" He stops himself. The way he looks at me, part confusion, part disbelief, part fear. I meet his gaze and speak quietly. "Yes, I made a withdrawal from my account." He runs a hand through his hair, takes a sharp breath. "Mom, that money was mine. I finish. Every cent. You opened that account with me because your credit was bad. You promised it was temporary, and it was until now." He shakes his head like he can undo the facts with motion alone. "I didn't think you'd actually—" "What remember?" I ask, voice still calm. "Assert myself. Take back what you assumed I'd forget." His mouth opens, but no words come. I walk to the dresser, pull out the list, the same one I wrote after Diane's comment. I hand it to him. "These are the numbers. I have receipts for most. Some were gifts, yes, but most were loans. You called them that when you needed the help. Funny how the word changed once the balance tipped in your favor." He reads the paper, his face draining of color. Then he folds it more out of habit than respect and presses the crease with his thumb. "This is going to upset Diane," he mutters. I smile not unkindly. It already did. He stares at me quiet. I add, "You told me to stay out of your finances." So I did. I pulled mine out. He exhales. "This is going to make things really hard for us." And there it is, the line that strips the paint off everything. Us. As if I was never part of that. I know I say, and it's not easy for me either, but I won't apologize for remembering my own worth. He doesn't argue, maybe because he knows it wouldn't matter, maybe because he sees something different in me now. A silence falls between us, heavy but clean. "I'm not trying to punish you," I say after a long pause. "I'm just done pretending I don't matter." He nods slowly, still stunned. Then he leaves. That evening, I find Diane in the kitchen. She's stirring pasta sauce, metal spoon, clinking against the pot with more force than necessary. She doesn't look at me. "Hope you're happy," she mutters. I set a glass of water on the counter beside her. Happiness was never what I was aiming for. She finally turns. Her eyes flash, but her voice stays even. "You've made things really complicated." No, I say I've made them clear. Her jaw tightens. "We've been under a lot of pressure, Evelyn." "I know," I reply, "and I offered help. You declined. That wasn't your place." "I thought being family made it my place," I say softly. Clearly I was mistaken. The sauce boils over. She curses under her breath and lowers the flame. I leave her there. I'm not angry. I'm not proud. I'm simply finished. That night, Liam knocks on my door again. "Nana, why is Mommy mad at you?" I sit him on the bed beside me, tuck the blanket around his small legs. Sometimes I say gently, grown-ups don't know how to talk about feelings, so they get mad instead. "Are you gonna leave?" he asks. I pause. The truth stings even as it forms. "Not yet," I whisper, "but maybe soon." He presses his cheek to my shoulder and sighs. "I hope not." "I know, sweetheart," I say, "but sometimes loving people means giving them space, even when it hurts." We sit in silence. My hand brushes through his hair the way I used to with Mark, back when love was simple. When he leaves, I sit there for a long time staring at nothing. Not sad, not angry, aware. I no longer belong here, not the way they need me to, not the way I used to. But maybe, just maybe that's not a loss. Maybe it's a beginning. Saturday comes. The air outside smells like snow. The kind of sharp, still cold that reminds you winter is waiting just around the bend. Diane is bustling around the kitchen, yelling for Mark to pack Liam's gloves, and Mark is muttering something about the GPS being glitchy again. It's their annual family ski weekend. I used to go, used to be invited, used to be part of family. This year, no one asked if I was coming. No one even pretended. I watch from the front window as they pile into the car, Diane's sunglasses already on Liam, waving half-heartedly, Mark double-checking the trunk for his snowboard. Diane doesn't wave. Mark glances up once, and then they're gone. The silence that follows is almost startling, like a vacuum left in their wake. No footsteps overhead, no cartoons blaring in the living room. Just me in this big house that echoes in all the wrong places. I don't fill it with music. I let the quiet stay. I make myself oatmeal. I drink my tea slowly. I sit at the kitchen table and breathe. For the first time in weeks, no one looks through me. No one interrupts. No one tells me I'm too much or too involved or too present. I walk to the bookshelf and pick out a novel I've read 3 times. The pages are soft, the spine cracked. It feels like revisiting an old friend. I curl up in the sunniest spot of the house, ironically Diane's favorite corner, and let the warmth spill across my knees. Hours pass. I don't look at the clock. I don't scroll. I don't explain myself to anyone. And I realize I'm not lonely. I'm peaceful. Later, I go out for a walk. The neighborhood is quiet. The wind pushes leaves across the pavement in little rust-colored waves. I pass the community library box, the one I used to refill with children's books. I leave a folded note inside an old copy of Charlotte's Web, a message to no one in particular. Kindness is never wasted, but neither is memory. I walk all the way to a little cafe on Main. The owner recognizes me, Mrs. Weston, hot tea with lemon right. We smile. I sit by the window and watch the light shift across the sidewalk. I read. I write. I let the day wrap around me like a well-worn quilt. When I return to the house, the mailbox is overflowing. I sort through bills, catalogs, and something unexpected, a letter from the law office downtown. I open it with care. Inside is a copy of the finalized trust documents, signed, notarized, complete. Liam Weston is the beneficiary. The age clause is clear. The funds are protected. The inheritance bypasses Mark and Diane entirely. I trace the clean lines of my own signature, not out of pride, but out of something steadier. Relief, perhaps. Dignity. They will one day discover this. Maybe too late. Maybe at just the right time. But it's done. The rest of the weekend is mine. I make soup. I wash the sheets. I dust the picture frames and finally replace the faded photo of my late husband with one of me and Liam at the pumpkin patch last fall. His smile is wide-mind genuine. We look like joy. I write in my journal. They told me to stay out of their finances, so I did, and in doing so, I returned to myself. Sunday evening arrives. Their car pulls back into the driveway just before dark. Luggage thumps against the porch. Voices rise. Diane is already complaining about traffic. Mark is saying something about the snow tires. Liam runs in first and throws his arms around me. Nana, guess what? I fell, but I didn't cry. I hug him tight. That's my brave boy. Diane eyes me briefly, then disappears upstairs. Mark offers a strained smile. We brought you some of those trail mix bars you like, he says, holding out the bag. I take it. Not because I need them, but because I understand what's really being handed to me. A gesture, small, tenuous, but a start. I nod. Thank you. He hesitates, then turns to go. Later that night, I sit at the edge of my bed and run my hands over the quilt. My thoughts wander, but not far, not backward, not toward what I've lost. I think about what I've reclaimed, my place, my power, my peace, and I smile, not out of victory, but out of grace. The next few days pass in a strange new rhythm. No one mentions the bank account. No one asks what I did or why I did it. And that silence, that choice not to confront, is more revealing than any argument could be. Mark is quieter around me now. Not hostile, just careful. Like someone navigating the edges of a map they realize they've never really read. Diane, on the other hand, speaks to me with what I can only describe as performative civility. Short clipped sentences, pleasant tone, empty content. It's like she's been told to play nice, but her pride can't quite choke it down. I don't mind. I don't need warmth where there is no sincerity. One morning, I walk into the kitchen and find a spreadsheet open on Diane's laptop. Color-coded cells, payment due dates, budget projections. She walks in, sees me, and quickly flips the screen down. I offer her a gentle nod. She doesn't return it. Later that day, I find a Post-it note on the counter. Picked up more milk. Let me know if you need anything from the store. D. It's the first time she's signed anything to me in months. It's not an apology, but it's a crack in the wall. I leave her a reply on the back of the note. Thank you. No groceries needed. I'm fine. Evelyn. Short, civil, truthful. She doesn't reply, but she doesn't throw it out either. That evening, Liam knocks on my door again. He does that more often now. Can we read? He asks. I pull him into my lap and open Charlotte's Web, the same copy I left a note in at the cafe. I had gone back to retrieve it earlier that week, and something about it feels sacred now. He leans against me as I begin to read aloud. Where's Papa going with that axe? Said Fern to her mother. He giggles. That's a funny way to start a story. I smile. Sometimes the truth starts sharp before it softens. He doesn't understand the meaning yet, but he will. I keep reading. His breathing slows, his body relaxes into mine, and as I turn the pages, I think about legacy, not the kind you write in a will, but the kind you tuck into memories. I think about my own mother, about the way she used to make soup when we were sick, and the way she'd whisper, "You're stronger than you feel." I never appreciated how much she gave until I was old enough to be dismissed. Maybe that's how the cycle goes. Maybe breaking it means saying enough even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. The next day, I visit the community center. They're starting a volunteer tax prep program for seniors. The coordinator is thrilled to have someone who actually knows what a 1040 looks like. I don't tell her I used to do small business bookkeeping for years. I just smile and say, I'll be here Tuesdays and Thursdays. It feels good to say that, to choose something, not out of obligation, but because it matters. I drive home with a new scarf I bought at the thrift store and a small sense of excitement I hadn't felt in months. I place the scarf on my bed and look around the room. I've lived here for over 2 years, but now it feels temporary again. Not because I've been pushed out, but because I'm getting ready to step out. There's a difference. I start making a list, quietly, methodically. Places I might go. Little apartment above the bookstore downtown. Guest cottage by Garden of the Gods. Check rental prices. Senior living community with walking trails and shared gardens. I don't tell Mark. I don't tell Diane. This list is mine. Like the money I took back. Like the trust I built. Like the peace I reclaimed. That evening, I cook dinner. Chicken with rosemary and garlic. The smell fills the house. Mark comes down and lingers in the doorway. That smells amazing, he says, surprised. Old recipe, I reply. Your grandmother's. He nods. I remember. I serve 3 plates. No ceremony. No speech. Diane hesitates when she sees the table set. But she sits. And we eat. For the first time in months, we eat together. Not like a family exactly, but like people learning how to speak again. The kitchen lights cast a soft gold over the table. Liam chatters about his science project, waving his fork for emphasis. Mark nods along, trying to keep up. Diane eats slowly, silently. Her eyes never quite meet mine, but she listens. And that, oddly, feels new. There's no apology, no dramatic turning point. But there's something quieter, a shift. A slowing down of the distance between us. After dinner, Mark helps clear the plates. I can't remember the last time he did that without being asked. Diane rinses the dishes. I dry. We don't speak much, but the silence isn't hostile anymore. It's tentative, cautious, like a ceasefire neither of us wants to break. When I return to my room, I find the scarf I bought still folded on the bed. I wrap it around my shoulders and sit down with my notebook. You don't have to be invited back to the table. Sometimes you set a new one. The next morning, I wake early. Something inside me is shifting like a bud beginning to stretch beneath snow. There's no grand gesture waiting outside my door, no tearful confessions. But there is a peace in my bones I haven't felt in years. I spend the afternoon going through my things, not out of bitterness, not out of urgency, but because I feel ready. Ready to live deliberately again. I call the little apartment above the bookstore. Yes, it's still available. Yes, they'd love to have a quiet tenant who bakes and keeps tidy. I make an appointment to visit next Tuesday. Not because I'm leaving tomorrow, but because now I can. That night, Mark knocks on my door. His face is uncertain, like a boy unsure if he's about to be scolded. Hey, he says, can we talk? I nod, setting down my book. He steps in, doesn't sit. His hands are in his pockets. I've been thinking about everything he begins, voice low, about how things have been, what I said or didn't say, what Diane said, what you did. I wait. I don't rescue him with words. I guess I forgot he finally says, how much you've done, for us, for me. I offer a small smile. It's easy to forget what's already been spent until the bill shows up. He lets out a laugh, sad, guilty. Yeah. Silence stretches again, but it's a softer one. I don't know how to fix it, he admits, but I'd like to try. This time I do speak. Trying is a good place to begin, but you should know I'm not staying forever. I'm not angry. I just need something that's mine again. He nods slowly. I understand. He turns to go, then pauses at the door. I told Liam he can still come over to your place, wherever that ends up being. He thinks you're magic, you know. I blink back the warmth in my eyes. He's not wrong. After he leaves, I stare at the closed door for a while. Then I write, there are no perfect sons, no perfect mothers, but there are new beginnings, even if they take longer than you hoped. That weekend, Diane joins me in the garden. The frost hasn't fully set in, but the leaves are thinning fast. I'm trimming back the hydrangeas when she walks over. She doesn't speak right away. Then softly, Mark told me about the trust. I nod, not stopping my pruning. I figured. She exhales. I was angry. I still am a little. But I think maybe you did the right thing. I glance up. I just didn't want you making decisions behind our backs, she adds quickly, as if to save face. I straighten. I didn't make decisions behind your backs. I made decisions because I'd already been pushed behind. She says nothing, just looks down. I don't hate you, Diane, I say after a pause, but I won't be erased. She nods once. It's not much, but it's something. We finish in silence. By the time I go inside, Liam is waiting with a drawing. It's a house, small, yellow, with a garden and a swing out front. 2 stick figures stand beneath a tree. One has gray hair, the other is holding her hand. It's us, he says proudly, at your new house. Can I come over on Saturdays? I kneel down and hold the picture like it's made of glass. Every Saturday, sweetheart. Because some bonds are too deep to be shaken, too real to be denied. Because even when the walls change, the heart can stay tethered. The following week drifts in gently like a quiet snowfall, one flake at a time, not enough to bury anything, but enough to soften the sharp edges. The apartment above the bookstore is smaller than I expected, but cozy. Hardwood floors, slanted ceilings, a window seat that looks out onto the street below where people carry paper bags and coffee cups, and the world feels like it still spins without permission. The landlord, a kind woman named Joan, smiles when I ask about quiet hours. You'll be our only tenant up there, she says. Most of our noise is the sound of pages turning. I take it. I don't tell Mark and Diane right away. Some choices need space to grow without eyes watching. Back at the house, Diane has shifted. Not completely, but enough that the frost has thawed from her voice. She asks if I want anything from the co-op, offers me tea, leaves space at the table. It's not affection, but it's effort. Sometimes effort is enough. I begin packing in the evenings, not in a rush, just a little each day. A drawer here, a bookshelf there. It's astonishing how little I've accumulated in 2 years. The room was never mine, not really. Mark notices. You're really doing it, he asks one night, standing in the doorway, hands in his sweatshirt pockets. I nod. I found a place, close by, quiet. He shifts. You don't have to go, you know. I know, I say, but I want to. That stings him, I can tell, but he nods. Will Liam still see you? Of course, I say. Saturdays are already promised. He nods again, then looks down. I'm sorry, Mom. I wait, not out of coldness, but because apologies deserve stillness. I didn't see what was happening, he adds. I thought you were fine. I was silent, I say. Not fine. The difference hits him. He doesn't try to fix it, doesn't rush in with reassurances. He just says, I'll help you move. It's enough. The night before I leave, I take one last walk through the house, not for nostalgia, but for closure. The guest room, the kitchen, the spot where I overheard stay out of our finances. I'm not bitter. I'm not broken. I'm awake. The next morning, the move is quiet and uneventful. A few boxes, a few bags. Liam insists on carrying my magic books and nearly drops the entire stack on the stairs. Diane offers to help load the car. Her eyes are tired but not angry. Before I leave, she hands me a brown paper bag. Inside is a small glass jar, my homemade strawberry jam from last fall. She saved one. "I thought you'd want it," she says. "Thank you," I reply and mean it. We don't hug, but we don't turn away either. At the new apartment, sunlight spills across the window seat like a welcome mat. I set down my tote, my list, my scarf. Joan leaves a kettle on the stove and a tin of Earl Grey on the counter with a note. Just in case the first night gets lonely. It doesn't. I sit with a cup of tea and watch the town move outside my window. I can see the edge of the park. A mother pushing a stroller, a teenager reading on a bench. The bookstore sign sways gently in the wind below. Liam's drawing hangs on the fridge. I pull out my notebook and write, "This is not a retreat. This is a return. Not to who I was, but to who I never got the chance to be." That Saturday, Liam arrives just after lunch. He throws his arms around me and immediately asks for toast with jam. We sit at the little table by the window and eat together. He tells me about school, his dinosaur project, and how Diane burned the casserole last night, but pretended it was deconstructed. He giggles so hard he snorts juice. And I think this is enough. This moment, this piece. Later, as he naps on the couch, I pick up my knitting again. I haven't touched it in years. The yarn slips through my fingers like time itself, soft, delicate, and full of second chances. And I whisper to no one in particular. I stayed out of their finances, but I finally invested in myself. The days that follow settle into a rhythm so gentle it feels like a balm. I wake to sunlight instead of alarms. The floors creak under my slippers in a way that makes the place feel alive, not old. The air carries the scent of paper and coffee from the bookstore below. And best of all, no one watches me like I'm an obligation. No one sighs when I walk into a room. I am alone, but never lonely. My calendar slowly fills. Tuesdays and Thursdays at the community center for tax help. Saturdays with Liam. Fridays I save for myself, usually a walk through the garden district or coffee with Joan, who talks about her grown children with the same quiet ache I know too well. Some nights I write. Not a memoir, not exactly. Just pieces of memory I don't want to vanish. I write about the time Mark had scarlet fever and clung to my hand through the worst of the night. I write about how Diane once left me a birthday card that said, "Thank you for making me feel safe in your home." I write about how both those things happened and how both were true, because the truth is always layered, always both more and less than what you say in the moment. One evening, as I fold laundry, I catch sight of my reflection in the hallway mirror. I look older than I feel, but stronger than I used to be. I don't flinch from my own eyes anymore. There's a knock at the door. Mark. He's holding a cardboard box. It's my old recipe cards ones I thought were lost. He found them in the garage, he says. Thought I might want them. I do. He lingers in the doorway longer this time. Liam says this place smells like you, he murmurs. I hope that's a good thing. He smiles, it is. Before he leaves, he hesitates. I know you're happier here, he says. But I want you to know the door is open if you ever want to come back. I nod slowly. Thank you. But I'm right where I belong. And I am. He hugs me. Not the kind of hug that says, please don't leave, but the kind that says, I see you now. After he goes, I sit by the window again. There are no more cold silences in a house that didn't want me. No more shame hidden in polite smiles. Only a view of my own making. A space that belongs only to me. That night, I fall asleep to the sound of wind tapping the window pane. No footsteps upstairs. No tension in the walls. Just breath and warmth and peace. And when I dream, it's not of loss. It's of open doors, of new rooms, of a life that no longer asks me to prove I deserve to be in it. The first snow comes quietly in Colorado, thin and polite, at first like it's asking permission to cover the town. I wake to a world blanketed in white rooftops, softened tree branches powdered. From my apartment window, everything looks hushed, still, whole. I wrap a shawl around my shoulders and sip tea by the window seat. Below, people crunch through the snow in boots and scarves. A little girl throws the first snowball of the season at her brother and squeals. The world carries on, unbothered and new. It's been nearly 3 months since I moved out. Enough time for old wounds to scab over. enough time for a different kind of closeness to grow one with space, not suffocation. Liam visits like clockwork, every Saturday usually with a project or a story. Sometimes Diane comes too. She doesn't say much, but she's polite, observant. Once she complimented my curtains. Another time she brought lemon cookies. Little things. They matter more than they should. Mark's learning too. He doesn't flinch as much when I speak with conviction. He listens longer, and more often now he says, "Thank you," without sounding like it costs him anything. They're trying. And I've stopped trying so hard to be needed. I tend to my plants. I write. I knit scarves for the community center's holiday drive. I've started tutoring math for high school kids once a week. One of the girls told me I reminded her of her grandmother, but cooler. I laughed. That night I cried a little too. Not from sadness, from the strange sweetness of being seen again. It's hard to explain to someone what it feels like to matter quietly, to no longer be the center, but to be part of something, to contribute without being consumed. It's enough, more than enough. One Sunday, Liam curls up beside me on the couch, a blanket over both our laps. We watch The Iron Giant, and he gets misty-eyed at the ending. He rests his head on my arm and whispers, "You'd protect me like that, right?" Always, I say, brushing his hair back. And I would, but I wouldn't forget myself in the process. That's the difference now. Later, after he leaves, I clean up the cocoa mugs and pause at the refrigerator. His drawing still hangs there, the yellow house, the swing the two stick figures under the tree. I touch the corner of the page and close my eyes. I remember being 40. I remember being 50. I remember giving without boundaries, loving with my entire self. And I don't regret it. But I do wish I had started sooner. This part. The part where I protect my peace as much as I protected everyone else. It's never too late. I write that in my notebook. It's never too late to reclaim the quiet parts of yourself, the ones you gave away so quickly thinking it was love. I put the kettle on and pull out a second teacup. Maybe someone will visit, maybe not. Either way, I'm not waiting. This home, this life, it's no longer about what I was allowed to have. It's what I chose to build. For the first time in a long time, I feel light. Not because everything is perfect, but because I'm no longer holding on to things that were never mine to carry. I stayed out of their finances. But I finally invested in the only thing that truly needed my attention. Mia. The holidays arrive with their usual mixture of sparkle and strain. Twinkling lights in every window, cinnamon on the air, smiling faces, stretched just a little too tight in family photos. Diane invites me to Christmas dinner. Her text is short, careful. "If you'd like to join us Christmas Eve, we'd love to have you," Liam asked. That last line is the hook. I know it, she knows it. Still, I accept. Not because I miss the house or the noise or the careful glances passed between Mark and Diane when I speak, but because Liam asked, and that for now is enough. I bake a pecan pie, the kind Mark used to beg for every Thanksgiving. I tie a red ribbon around it. I wear my emerald green cardigan and polish the gold leaf necklace my husband gave me our last Christmas together. When I walk into the house, Diane greets me at the door. She doesn't hug me, but her voice is warm. "I love that color on you." I thank her. Mark takes my coat and brings me tea without being asked. Liam beams when he sees me, runs into my arms like I haven't just been here last weekend. For a few hours, it almost feels like family again, but different. Less performance, less edge. They've learned something. Maybe I have too. We eat. We laugh a little. Diane doesn't interrupt me when I speak. Mark doesn't change the subject when the past is mentioned. There's a space at the table for me now, not just physically, but emotionally, and I'm not there out of obligation or pity. I was invited. I chose to come. After dinner, Liam pulls me aside. "Nana," he says, "when I grow up, I want to live near you, like next door." I smile. That sounds perfect. He lowers his voice. "But if Mommy gets mean again, you can just live upstairs from the bookstore, okay?" I laugh, startled. Deal. Later, as I prepare to leave, Diane helps me pack up the leftovers. "Thanks for coming," she says. "I know things weren't easy before." I nod. They weren't. She bites her lip. "I was wrong about some things. It's not a full apology, but it doesn't need to be." "I'm not here to collect regrets," I reply, "only to carry forward what's worth keeping." She nods. Her eyes glisten, and for once she doesn't look away. Outside, snow falls in soft flakes across the windshield. I sit in the driver's seat for a moment, letting the warmth of the house linger, not as something I'm returning to, but as something I've now redefined. I start the engine and head back toward my apartment. The town is still lights reflecting off the snowbanks, the bookstore's sign gently swaying in the breeze. Home is waiting. Not just the space, but the life I built around it. I unlock the door, kick off my boots, and turn on the lamp beside the window seat. I make myself a cup of tea and slice a small piece of pie. Then I write, "Healing doesn't always look like reconciliation. Sometimes it looks like soft distance and learning to visit without sacrificing yourself." I place the pen down and breathe, not out of relief, but out of resolution, because in the end it wasn't just about the money. It was about the memory of what I gave and the quiet reclaiming of what was left behind. They told me to stay out of their finances, so I did. But I kept the most valuable investment for myself, a life where I'm no longer an afterthought, a life where my worth no longer needs proof, a life that finally feels like mine. The new year arrives quietly. No fireworks, no champagne, just the sound of wind brushing against the windows and the steady tick of the old clock on the bookshelf. I'm alone by choice, wrapped in a blanket, a cup of chamomile warming my hands, and a single candle flickering on the windowsill. It's enough. At midnight, I don't make a wish. I make a promise. No more shrinking. No more waiting to be acknowledged. No more giving myself away in pieces to people who never asked why I was breaking. I write those words in my notebook and underline them twice. The next morning, I open the blinds to a town dusted in fresh snow, everything gleaming and silent. I smile to myself. The beginning of something doesn't need applause. It just needs a heartbeat. Mark calls the next day. No crisis, no hidden motive, just a check-in. He asks if I want to get lunch the following week, just the two of us. I pause surprised. He notices. "I want to know more about you, Mom. Not just what you did for us, but who you are now." I close my eyes for a moment. "I'd like that," I say. We meet at a small cafe, the kind with mismatched mugs and a chalkboard menu. He asks questions I didn't expect about my childhood, about the books I've been reading about the first time I ever felt brave. I see him differently now, not just as a son, but as a man learning how to see his mother outside the frame he grew up with. It's not perfect, but it's real. And that's enough. Afterward, I walk home through the cold, my scarf pulled high over my chin, the snow crunching beneath my boots. My breath fogs in front of me, but I feel warm. The apartment is just as I left it, quiet, steady, full of peace. I hang my coat feed, the sourdough starter I've been nurturing for weeks, and sit by the window with my knitting. The scarf I'm working on will be for Joan's granddaughter, pale blue, soft as a whisper. As the sun begins to set, I watch the light shift across the floorboards. I think about the journey behind me, the sharp words, the bank withdrawal, the silence that followed, the dignity I reclaimed, not with shouting, but with stillness, with choices. I open my notebook one last time and write. Some people get their power back by fighting, others by walking away. I got mine back by remembering who I was and deciding that was more than enough. I close the book. I light one more candle. I sit back and let the quiet in, not as a punishment, but as a gift. It's funny how peace doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives as a slow exhale in the middle of an ordinary day, a tea kettle whistling, the soft thump of snow sliding from the rooftop, a letter from a friend you thought had forgotten you arriving, with a scribbled note that simply reads, "Thinking of you." I no longer measure my value by how needed I am. I no longer wait for someone else to tell me I've done enough. I rise when I want to. I walk when the sky looks right. I sit by my window and listen to the soft hush of the town moving gently beyond the glass. My life is quieter now, but it's never been more alive. I still see Mark, still share meals, memories, pieces of our shared history that have softened with time. Diane is not my friend, but she's no longer my enemy either. Just another person trying to figure out what love looks like in a language she never learned to speak. And Liam, sweet, loyal Liam, still comes every Saturday. We bake, we read, we dream. He once told me, "Nana, your house feels like a hug." Maybe that's what I was always building. Not a legacy, not a lesson, just a life that finally hugged me back. So if you've ever been told to sit down, stay quiet, or stay out of it, if you've ever been cast aside by the very people you gave your best years to, please hear this. It's never too late to take your dignity with you and start again. It's never too late to build something soft and strong and wholly your own.